Absolutely, without a doubt, she saved my life, because there's no way that I could continue at 33 stone. I was lucky. I'd had all my blood tests and everything, and there were none of the usual health risks involved with being morbidly obese or super morbidly obese, and there's nothing super about it. But I was lucky that none of those things, the diabetes or whatever, the cholesterol and all that sort of stuff, none of that. I didn't register on any of those scales, but I know I dodged a bullet. And so I went back to see her, having lost 10 stone, and gave her a card. It was quite emotional. First time I'd seen her in that period, dropped the card off and kind of just broke down like a blubbering wreck in the surgery, and sort of said thank you for giving me my life back, basically.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Slimming Stories. I'm your host, Claire Oldham West. So how are you? How are you keeping during COVID? I hope all is well and that you've been enjoying the sunshine for those who are able to get out and about and walking. Those that are still at work, I hope you're managing that okay. And I was thinking the other day when I was in the supermarket, all the people that are off work or are on furlough, in a way, it must be really hard for those that are working and just still having to carry on. So I am really grateful for those working in the supermarkets and the hospitals and providing as much normality to this craziness as possible. And talking about craziness, my husband was given the task of helping me to do my roots, because obviously there's no hairdressers and I've not got a lot of grey, but enough for me to think actually I need to be going to the hairdressers. I think my appointment was about 4 weeks ago. So he was tasked with doing my hair for me, and that's what he did. And he was kind of laughing halfway through it because I think I was a bit nervous. We've tried to put the gloves on him, and I think they're for like extra small hands or something. I think his glove size like an XL, and we couldn't get any gloves to fit. And I was thinking, oh goodness, I'm not going to get my hair done after all. But managed to find these gloves to fit, and my hair went fine. It was a bit painful in places when I was trying to comb it through, and my hair's naturally curly, so that was a bit of a task, but we managed to do it. And I think it's just a time with COVID just to be doing things out of your comfort zone. I've been baking this morning, something that I never take the time to do. And that was just lovely, just to do something that, out of my comfort zone that I've really enjoyed. And I think Martin quite liked doing my hair, to be fair. I think he was quite amazed he actually managed to do it and it didn't go out blotchy or green or fall out. So I think he was quite relieved with that. Now, today's guest is Matt Towle. Matt Towle is a fantastic guy that has lost a lot of weight. His start weight was over 33 stones and has lost a lot of weight. Has now lost over 12 stone of that weight. And this was all because of an honest conversation with a GP. And that's why it's so important to be honest, to speak up. If you're really struggling with your weight, you don't need to be. There's so much support out there. And thankfully, he was able to take action to change his weight and his health. And it's such a lovely, honest story. I can't wait for you to hear today's episode. So here's Matt Towle.
I'm sure it's not unique to me. I've always had a problem with food, or a strange relationship with food. Always remember being a child thinking I was the fat one, the big one. From sort of 10 or so, that was the age when I was really aware of it. Always the fat friend, always much bigger. Obviously, they always say you look back on your pictures of yourself and realise you weren't as fat as what you thought, and that's definitely the case now. But always remember feeling much bigger than all of my peers, and sort of making up for that with humour or just trying to fit in other ways, because I was always the biggest in the class or the second biggest in the class or in any peer group. So always had a strange relationship with food, mainly, I don't know, maybe due to the way that we were brought up. When I was brought up, I'm 41 years of age now as of last week, so a child of the 80s, and we were brought up in a certain way, and then you get to sort of 10 or 11 and you've got a bit more freedom, a bit more independence, and you can maybe go and spend some money down the shops and buy sweets and maybe it's not down to your parents what you eat so much then. So quite a lot of it lands squarely on my shoulders.
So also a child of the 80s, I discovered quite early on that I was given a set amount of money for my weekly spend on chocolate. And rather than get a pack of chocolate bars and have those throughout the week, I decided to buy a cheesecake and claim this cheesecake as my own. However, I'm sure there was probably around 4 times as many calories in that cheesecake than the chocolate bars. But food for me has been, just like you've described, a bit of a challenge. Like yourself, I was the second largest in my class and felt really different. And it feels strange, doesn't it, when you are at that age and you start comparing yourself, because it's not a nice feeling, is it, at all?
No, you, like you say, you're kind of hitting puberty, so you're aware of your own body anyway. You're aware of how your body's different to everybody else's, and then it just takes that one comment from somebody, whether it's in the changing rooms at school or you suddenly realise that you're not as fast as somebody on sports day, and I don't know where my problems come from, but I always remember those sort of comments and feeling quite inadequate almost, and sort of needing to make up for it in other ways.
So sports day wasn't a delight for you then? It wasn't something that you look forward to and treasured?
No, I think, again, I know I'm not the only person. I've read enough weight loss stories over the years to kind of have things that resonate with me, and being that last one to be picked, or second to last one, or within the last sort of 4 or 5 people to be picked all the time for whatever team sports we were doing, and not being particularly active, and my family not being particularly active. Sports and outdoor activity and just stuff was not something we did as a family.
No.
So my mum and dad aren't, and still are, well, they're probably more active now than they've ever been, but that we just didn't go out on bike rides as kids. We didn't go out for long walks in the meadows and all that sort of stuff. It's not weird. I led a different life.
So age 10 and armed with a little bit of independence and a bit of cash to go to the shops, what were your go-to foods?
Oh, I mean, I've always been a secret eater. So lots of things that I can maybe eat without people knowing. It would be sweets. It would also be this kind of the entrepreneurial bit of me would always come out with food as well, because I'd buy something and sell it for more money than I'd bought it for, and then use that money to buy even more food.
Wow.
So like
Genius.
The school tuck shop would be, buy somebody a burger but charge them twice as much because they didn't have the money, and then I would have enough money the next day for 2 burgers from the school tuck shop, or
Right.
a piece of flapjack, or whatever it was. So, I mean, literally, I love food, full stop. There is no sweet or savoury or big dinners, or I literally, like lots of overweight people, my problem is I like food. I have certain trigger foods, but I like food.
Right. And we look to that word, don't we, love, and I think that's sometimes the hardest thing when we start to address our food and our eating habits, and that we associate it with love. So for somebody to say, right, okay, let's try and cut back on that, for the first couple of weeks it might be okay, then actually if in your intelligence you've associated food with love for so many years, it's almost like, why would I not want to be associated with love? Why would I not want to be loved? So of course I'm going to keep eating the food, because all these years we've associated that word, haven't we, with food?
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, it wasn't always about having nice food or quality food. It was more about if £5 buys you 100 grams of chocolate bar X, or it buys you 1,000 grams of chocolate bar Y, of course, and Y might be dreadful chocolate, but you're getting 1,000 grams, you're getting 10 times more chocolate for your money. So you would buy that. It was never about buying nice quality food and sort of respecting my body enough to put good stuff in. It was just about abundance food. So that, maybe the cheapest crisps or the cheapest chocolate or whatever was on multi-buy. It was never about, oh, I really want that. That's what I've got a craving for, and that will satisfy the craving. It was just the maximum amount of food possible for the money that you had available.
And did you feel that in a way you was trying to make up for a loss of another kind with having this, like you say, abundance of food, and the way that you associated abundance with feeling complete? Is that something that you could reflect on now at this time?
Because I'm fortunate in that my mum and dad are both still alive, or they were as of 2 minutes ago. So I'm assuming they're okay. And they're still together, and I've had a very happy childhood. So it's not like I don't have a tale of woe that like some people do, where something, a traumatic event triggered weight gain or anything like that. But I've always known to be slightly ashamed of that eating, because I don't know, it's hard, because when you're big, you don't want to eat in public, because in my eyes, if the public sees a fat person eating, that's the reason you're fat. It's not because we eat because everybody has to eat. Overweight people don't eat in public because for fear of the comments in the street or whatever that is. I've had like a lot of dieters, I've had lots of failed attempts over the years. I've always had the awareness of it. It's not necessarily followed that I've had the motivation to do anything about it. So I've offset my weight by fooling myself that I was happy by being that happy, jovial person. If I call myself, then people can't call me. That kind of, and I know that a lot of people say that, I'll make light of my own situation before anybody else does. And I did that for sort of 15, 20 years. No hassle at all. Literally, you couldn't say anything about me that I hadn't already said about myself, therefore taking your power away from you, that kind of attitude. But it's only been really this time that I've had a plan that's been sustainable, that I felt has worked for me, and has certainly worked in the long term. I've had lots of failed attempts previously, potions, lotions, all that stuff that people do that works for a few weeks and has great results. But whether because I've not addressed the root cause of why I overeat, or whether it's because the plans themselves aren't sustainable, I've always reverted back to, air quotes, normal eating, and normal eating, overeating.
Right, okay. So at the moment you're following the Slimming World plan.
Yeah.
How did you come to that decision that this was going to be something that you're going to take up? And what was it like when you went through those doors?
So I had no intention at all of joining Slimming World. I didn't wake up one morning and have a revelation that, oh my God, I'm really big, I need to join Slimming World to save my life. That's exactly what happened, but it's not what was supposed to have happened. So like lots of big people, when you're large, you don't go and see your GP. I haven't been to see my GP for about 5 years, mainly because if I went with a cold, you're half expecting your GP to say, oh, you've got a cold because you're fat, and you've got a bad leg, it's because you're fat, you've got a bad back, it's because you're fat, you need to lose weight, etc., etc., etc. So you just don't go. And I was nagged to go and see my doctor by my partner over something completely, genuinely not weight related. And I went and saw a locum GP who's just in there for a few weeks, and she dealt with the thing I was there for. And at the end of the consultation, she just sort of sat me down, and at this point I was, starting weight, so 33 stone plus, struggling to half sit in the chairs with the fixed sides and not really being able to squeeze my bum in the seat, very awkward, but lots of really heavy people will know what I'm talking about. And she sort of said, okay, that's that dealt with. Now, a question for you, what are you doing about your weight? And it was literally as blunt as that. And I sort of looked at her, and she said, no, I'm being serious. I'm a doctor, and it would be remiss of me not to ask. And if you tell me that everything's okay, that's fine. I won't bring it up again. But if you want help, I'm here. And I'd never really thought of it like that. And so I sort of said, okay, what can you do for me? And just thought, well, token gesture, I'll humour her for a bit. And she said, well, look, here's the things that I can offer you. You know, I'm allowed to offer you, and you can have a Slim and World on referral,
Wow.
which I'm lucky is something that's where I live. So for those that don't know what that is, it's for certain parts of the country, your Slim and World is basically paid for by the NHS, by your GP for 12 weeks. The plan was originally to take the Slim and World on referral, lose the required 10% of weight loss, and then I'd be a shoo-in because of my size for bariatric surgery, whether that was, you know, gastric band or stomach staple, whatever that operation would be. But I would be a candidate for it, having lost 10% on Slim and World. Went on holiday the next week, went to Tenerife, and got all my paperwork through just before we went, and that was all fine. And then I was kind of quite looking forward to it. I'd not really thought about going to a Slim and World. And then the dread hit me that knowing I was big, would the scales be enough to support me? You know, would the scales go up to the number that I knew I was? Having been too heavy for the scales at the surgery, I then started to have real dread of what happens, you know, if I get to Slim and World and get told I'm too fat to know what my weight is. That was a real panic. So I actually rang the consultant from Tenerife, never spoke to her before, and sort of introduced myself and said I was coming to a club, and she put me immediately at rest and sort of said, look, the scales go up to 40 stone or whatever they go up to, so you should be absolutely fine. And I said I was worried about being the only man, and she assured me that, you know, there would absolutely be other men there, no problem. Got back off the holiday on the Friday, walked through the doors on the Tuesday, and of course I was the only man. You know,
that's usual. That's normal.
But you know what? My partner does the plant at home. She does support me 100%, but she doesn't come to group. But I now find that I like being supported by the women in the group, and they've all been absolutely fantastic, and they've got behind us. And you know, like any slimming group, we support each other. They've become friends outside of group as well as in group. I would say to anybody, doesn't matter whether the person sitting next to you is male, female, or whatever, that person is there for the exact same reasons that you are. So and once you get over yourself and once you accept that, you know, it is a support group, and that's what you're there for.
So was this a surprise that you're in Tenerife, looking forward to your holiday, and while in Tenerife you're making this call? This doctor really had an influence on you, didn't she? So that is fantastic that you'd had all these previous trips to the doctors and you felt obviously a negative response, but there was something about this lady that made you feel that you were supported.
Yeah, I'd say I don't know what it was. I think of it now that she saved my life, and that sounds quite twee when you say it, but absolutely, without a doubt, she saved my life, because there's no way that I could continue at 33 stone. I was lucky. I'd had all my blood tests and everything, and there were none of the usual health risks involved with being morbidly obese or super morbidly obese, and there's nothing super about it. But I was lucky that none of those things, you know, the diabetes or whatever, the cholesterol and all that sort of stuff, none of that, I didn't register on any of those scales. But I know I dodged a bullet. And so I went back to see her, having lost 10 stone, and gave her a card. It was quite emotional. First time I'd seen her in that period, dropped the card off and kind of just broke down like a blubbering wreck in the surgery, and sort of said thank you for giving me my life back, basically.
Oh, that's such a lovely story. It's a lovely ending to a story, isn't it? That it's not quite ended. You're still on your journey, but I'm just trying to picture how life was like on that holiday, because I've been to Tenerife. I'm as pale can be. In fact, I went to the coast a couple of days ago and I'm sure I got some sort of sunburn, and it was only like 9 degrees. I mean, it's ridiculous. So what was life like on holiday in Tenerife? And I know it's quite a hot country, isn't it, to visit?
I mean, it affects every part of your holiday without you knowing it, and you kind of just you can make excuses and say this is fine. But I found holidays really stressful. I used to find that and I still kind of do, to be honest. I find that going on holiday is more stressful than not having a holiday. So my partner's the ones that she really wants holidays, but every part of it when you're overweight is a sign of dread or was just uncomfort. So and I know you had Claire Shaw on a long while ago talking about airplane seats, and I remember listening to her on your podcast and her saying about the embarrassment of being asked to move, and I was literally sort of nodding along with your podcast going, that's happened to me, yeah. So not being able to fit in the airline seats, not being able to squeeze your knees in, having to kick your leg out in the aisle every chance you get just because your legs don't quite fit in the gap because your thighs are too big, stealing seat from a partner so that we could sit together and me not infringe on a stranger, looking at restaurants and saying we can't eat there because look at the type of furniture they've got, I physically can't fit my bum in that seat and sit comfortably. Then looking at other furniture going, will that furniture, is it plastic patio style furniture, will it hold my weight? Am I going to break it? Am I going to embarrass myself? Looking at sunbeds going, oh, if I lay on that sunbed, I've got to do it in a certain way that if I try and turn over, am I going to break the sunbed? All of that became like dread. And we're lucky that where we go in Tenerife is a private owners club, and most of the people that go there are slightly older. So there's no body beautifuls there. It's not Celebrity Love Island or anything like that. So nobody is really looking at you when you've got your bits hanging out and stuff. But you're still aware of yourself, and you end up sunbathing. And like you, I'm quite fair skinned, and so because you've got fat hanging where fat hangs, you get massive red bits, and then when you stand up straight you realize that underneath your chins you've got a big white patch where your double chin was. You then look ridiculous walking around like a red and white panda, or underneath your man boobs you've got a big white bit because your man boob was protecting, so you've got a red bit, a white bit, you end up looking like some sort of lollipop. It's not it's not pretty. So that was the joys of holidaying before.
You've really brought that to life, the story about the sunbeds and thinking, well, the weight, will you be supported with your weight? A lot of people have come on, and Gina has as well, talking about the flights abroad, but I've never really thought about that for somebody like you've just explained, being super obese, thinking before you go and eat a meal, will the chair support me? And that's something that's not even crossed my mind. So now you're well on your way with your weight loss. How much have you lost in total from starting?
So as of last week, it was 12 stone, 1.5. And then obviously because of the situation at the moment, then there's no Slimming World. I don't know where I currently stand as of yet, because obviously I was unable to weigh last week. I will be weighing at home, but it's not going to be an accurate weight loss, so I won't record it on my Instagram or anything until I know, because I don't think it's fair to me, and I don't think it's fair for other people to sort of look at.
But recognising that you've lost 12 stone, 1.5 pound is such an amazing achievement, isn't it? Do you feel really accomplished? I know you're not at the end where you want to be, but do you feel accomplished? Because that is such a big weight loss. It's such an achievement. Do you feel that? Or like some of the guests that I've had on have felt it takes a time for your mind to actually catch up with the changes in your body and what you see in the mirror?
I mean, I only really see a difference if I do a face-to-face Friday or whatever on Instagram, or if I have the comparison photos, but it's still inside. I still sometimes feel that I'm still the same person. I mean, it's massive. And when you start to go, well, in what ways has it impacted your life and what's changed? It's not the big stuff I remember. It's the tiny little details that actually a lot of people forget when you're big. Those are the things that have made the biggest impact for me. It has been monumental change. I remember my mum, when I got to sort of 10 stone something lost, and she said, "You've lost a me." I was like, well, okay. And I remember my nieces along the way going, "Oh, you've lost us, you've lost me, and you've lost." And so when I've got people in my group now that are at target at 10 stone or 11 stone or 12 stone, and they go, no, honestly, you've lost the whole us. That's when you kind of go, wow, this is okay. I've obviously, if I was carrying that person around all day, could I do it? Probably not. You know, you'd be exhausted. And I've always worked full time. You know, not been in a position where being overweight stopped me doing anything. It just made me uncomfortable to do stuff, if you know what I mean. So I've never used my weight as an excuse not to do anything. I've just done it uncomfortably and soldiered on and kind of regretted it afterwards, I guess.
So have you found a new energy that allows you to do more things now? Do you feel the grogginess that you can feel when you have extra weight has gone?
Yeah, I mean, just silly things really. Like, I mean, the best thing I've been bought actually was a smart band, a health band. There's lots of brands out there, so I'm not going to name the obvious one.
I don't mind.
And it's surprising. It's almost with me and my partner now. It's a daily conversation of, oh, what steps you on? You know, how many steps you on? How many steps you done today? And it's not a bit of friendly rivalry, because she always destroys me on steps. She's far more active during the week than I am. On a weekend, it's a total role reversal. My steps are way higher than her, but who cares about number of steps? But actually, I am quite active now. If I leave something upstairs and I get downstairs, before I'd have gone, oh, I'll leave that until I'm forced to go back upstairs, because the dread of walking up 14 steps to go and do it was not worth the hassle. Whatever I'd left up there could stay up there for hours. Now I can be running up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times, being a man, and keep forgetting stuff and having to go back up for the thing that I forgot in the first place. But I can do that 2 or 3 times now without even thinking about it. Oh, you know, I need to run up and get my slippers. No worries, I'll run up and get my slippers. Oh, I forgot my wallet. I'll run back upstairs and get my wallet. It's just, whereas before, no, just would not have happened. Wow. I'd have been pleading with my partner to go do it, or I'd have maybe done it once and moaned about it.
So how has this impacted your relationship? Do you feel that having this weight loss and now you've got this banter over steps, do you feel that this has brought you closer together as a couple?
I'm not going to lie and say yes. We've both changed. So as I said before, she doesn't attend group, but she is 100% on the journey with me, and I've been really, really lucky. And I've never hidden the fact that Mel is the brains behind the operation. She does the food shopping. She cooks 99.9% of the meals that I eat. She works out the sin values of a lot of stuff. And so I just go along with the process and it works for me. But she's lost 4 stone and a bit. So yeah, we are more active together. We go out for walks now, something we never did before, unless walking around Aldi or Lidl counters.
Yeah.
You know, we were out this weekend walking the dog. So it has changed that a little bit. We're looking at getting a dog in the summer. We currently dog sit, but we're looking at getting a dog because we've realised that they keep you active.
Yes.
So yeah, it has changed how we are, and obviously it's been nice to see us both sort of refinding our old wardrobes, but also buying new clothes as well.
Definitely.
And I'm sure, like lots of people, I've got clothes that will fit me 5 stone lighter, and I've also got clothes that still fit me. You know, I've got clothes in my wardrobe right up to the fat that fitted me when I first started my journey. So it's nice to, you know, go out and find new clothes and go shopping for fun stuff. Whereas before, when you're big, if you are going shopping, it's a chore.
Definitely. So when you first started, you mentioned before we started the recording that you was a 7XL, and are you going to keep any of those shirts as a momentum when you get to Target?
Yeah, I think the stereotypical tight northerner or Midlandser. I hate throwing stuff away. So the biggest criticism I get now of people is, I wish you'd wear clothes that fit. Everybody at group calls me for it, because I still wear a lot of my t-shirts that are way too baggy, or my joggy bottoms that fitted me 5 stone ago, or the clothes that I was wearing when I was starting weight obviously don't fit. I say I'll keep those memory tops or those memory bottoms just to go, wow, you know, these were snug fit before. But I've kept meaning to do it for a little while now, go through and actually bin or charity shop lots of the stuff that some of which has never been worn, some of which has been bought along the downsizing journey and it's maybe fitted for a month or 2 and is now already too big to wear.
So do you enjoy then shopping now? Is it a pleasure to go out and get some treat clothes for yourself?
clothing size is I mean, I'm preaching to the converted, I know, but clothing sizes are so annoying because there are brands out there that you can be one size and then you can look at another brand and they can vary massively. So you could say, oh, I'm a 7XL, but in other stuff I was really a 4XL or a 5XL. Some stuff I was a 9XL. So now I know that I can go into, and so when you're that big, you obviously can't go into the supermarket and buy clothes. You can't go into any clothes shop. There are specialist shops, or you're buying online. So you end up living in joggy bottoms, t-shirts, anything elasticated waist. Whereas now I'm going back in, as part of the food shop, nipping into the clothes section at Asda, or just a little cheeky top, or a little, buy those, or I'll get that pair of jeans, and I'm still looking at the back of the rail because that's where I am in my journey. But before, I wouldn't have even bothered to go to Asda, because why would I go up in the clothes section? Nothing other than socks and pants would have fitted.
Fantastic. So where do you see your target, if you just want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I've never set a target, and the reason I've not set a target is I think I'll know when I get there. So part of it is I know a lot of people when they start Slimming World, they start a weight loss thing, go, oh, I want to be, X weight because I've got this picture of me on holiday in Spain and I was X weight and I looked fantastic. Well, that's fine. For me, the last time I was this weight was 20 years ago. So for me to go any lower, I will be looking back almost pretty much a stone a year was my target, but what I was doing in my 20s. So I will be looking back at weights when I was 17, 18, by the time I get to target. Nothing points the same way it did when I was 17 or 18. There is obviously excess skin. I'm not the same person. I'm just, so I could look at a picture of me at sort of 17 stone and say, that's what I want to look like. But the reality is I'm never going to be a 17-year-old weighing 17 stone again. I'm going to be a 41-year-old man weighing 17 stone. And so I've got to be happy with wherever I get to when I get there. And I think in my head that number will be somewhere between 15 and 18 stone, but I won't know it until I'm there.
So you're there. Yeah.
So that's why I don't know how far away I am from target. I know I'm close, and I know I'm closer than I was last year. And I know I'm certainly a lot closer than I was before I started. I will literally go into group and I will say, well, the week it happens, I am now at target. This is me. I'm happy.
That's great. And I think it's quite a practical approach to have, and it's a common sense approach to have. And I think it's quite refreshing to hear a guy talking about body image and weight loss and kind of recognizing that, but not being overwhelmingly stressed at the fact that this has happened. And a lot of ladies that I do speak to, that is the one thing that is clearly on their mind, that they've got this excess skin, and they're not particularly happy with the body that they have after weight loss. So how have you come to be at peace with that?
Because obviously people are going to look at you for whatever they're going to look at you. So they're going to look at you and comment because you're big, or they're going to look at you and comment because you've got a bit of excess skin. You can't have it both ways. You can choose what people look at you for, and what they're going. If people are going to be nasty, they're going to be nasty. Rather people make comment of the fact that I've got some loose skin and some wobbly bits, then go, oh my God, look at him. He's really fat, or whatever they're going to say. I've never not bothered. If we go on holiday, I've always took my top off. I don't really care. I do care, but ultimately, they're not people that see you in the street on holiday are not the people that matter. They are total strangers that you're probably never going to see again. And actually, who cares? If that was the opinions of family and friends and stuff, and they were saying nasty, then there won't be family or friends.
No.
But when you're on holiday, they are strangers. So just if you can become happy with it, then you can start to become happy. I was going to the pool and swimming when I was quite heavy, not quite my starting weight, but not far off. And so the thing that you realise very quickly is nobody is actually looking at you. When you get in a pool, people are more bothered about their own body image than worrying about yours. There's very few people that when you get in a pool, they're going, oh my God, look at him. When what they're actually thinking is, oh, do I look that bad? Or, whatever they're thinking about you is actually more about where they are themselves.
Definitely. And it's nice that you've got that viewpoint and that you've made that connection, because obviously a lady like Mel that gets all the food in and does all these lovely meals, that's who you need to be focusing on, that relationship, not about people that are strangers and will see you in a fleeting glance on a holiday, you walk past, or maybe they're in the pool with you. So it's nice that you've made that connection. And it's all about mindset, isn't it? It's about what we choose to believe, what stories we decide to tell ourselves, and just to have an injection of positivity and getting off that gerbil wheel, isn't it?
One of the things that always, I've kind of tried to have at the back of my mind all the time for the last year is, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And so, like you said, the stories that we tell ourselves are the truth. So if I tell myself that nobody's looking, then nobody's looking. If I tell myself that everybody's looking, then of course that's also true. So, like I say, whether you think you can, whether you think you can't, you're right. It's just what you tell yourself. Exactly,
definitely. So for anybody that's listening to this podcast that would like to follow you on Instagram, what is your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's quite long, but it's in my head it's really easy, but it's fat_Matt_2_fab_Matt. But it's basically fat Matt to fab Matt with lots of underscores in the middle.
Very good. I think that's the longest Instagram handle I've had so far, so well done for that. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining me today, and I do believe that your story will inspire and help others, and it's nice that I've now got guys coming onto the podcast and sharing their stories. I think it's generally harder for men to open up and to be honest about their stories. So thank you so much. You've been a pleasure. To say hello to Mel. She sounds like a fantastic lady. And maybe we'll have Mel on as well. That'd be nice, wouldn't it, to get the couple on?
It would, yeah. Yeah, she'll tell you the real story, yeah.
Exactly. Reveal some secrets. All right, you take care then, Matt. Thanks for joining me. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. I hope this has helped you. I hope this has motivated you to make some changes next week with your own health and your own fitness. And I think, it must have been really difficult with all those stones ahead of Matt to think, I've got all of this to lose. I have so much weight to lose. And just to keep on week in, week out, losing the weight. And I know every slimming story is different and everybody's journey is different. If we can just focus our mind on keeping up the momentum, regardless of whether it's a maintain, £0.5 loss, £1 loss. How many times have we got on the scales thinking, oh, I've done all that and I've lost £1. I've done all that and I've maintained. Why have I maintained? And then we get angry and we get cross, don't we, with the scales. But the fact is that Matt's just continued through his weight loss journey of being consistent and is lost over 12 stone as a result of that. Over 12 stone, that is that's like a whole person, isn't it? It's lost a whole person, and it truly is remarkable. So until next week, you take care, and I'll hope to be back with another inspiring story.